Today on Flying Fishing and Food, we're actually going to lunch with John Spencer. And John is a very interesting guy. He's become a friend of mine. I met him at the gym. And he's had a pretty interesting background that I think you'll enjoy hearing about. We're going to go to a new barbecue restaurant in downtown Raleigh, on the south side of Raleigh. And we'll give you a little video of the barbecue there. And he's from Goldsboro, so he'll be a good judge as to whether the barbecue is fit to eat or not. So come along with us as we are in the truck today instead of in the plane, since we're staying in Raleigh, and as we drive downtown and have a chance to get to know John.
I'm used to horses 7 hands high, not 8.
I need a big truck to carry you around.
Man, this is a big ass horse, man. I don't know how in the hell am I supposed to get in this thing? I'm 6'8", running mate. Come on, baby.
Set that seat how you need it.
Man, look how tall this truck is. It's too tall.
Oh yeah.
What you gonna do? Run over people?
Oh yeah, if I need to. Well, I need to pull people out of a ditch. I can do it.
Shit, why would you do that? I don't think they asked to stay in there. They should have never ran into one. It's all
How you
good.
doing?
Old as dirt, but happy to be alive. God gave me another day.
There you go. It's a blessing, isn't it?
It is always a blessing. If you can't understand that each breath you take is a miracle, we got problems.
I'm telling you, that's one of the things that so many people don't. They just take that for granted. They take it for granted, which is really sad.
I'll tell you what, I see these clouds rolling in, and I saw how hot it was last week and how the temperature's breaking and the leaves are beginning to change. And, you know, you get a chance to inhale a little bit and smell the freshness of fall coming in, and you're like, here's a guide.
Yep. And I love the fall. That's my favorite season.
You and me both, who's the little fella?
Cool. Cools off. You got football.
Yes. And if you lived in Goldsboro, you'd have pork rinds.
So tell me about you. Tell me about kind of where you came from. I know you're a hero out of Goldsboro, but you came from very modest beginnings, like myself, and that's one of the things that I'm always interested in. Is you had many obstacles in front of you, but you've been very successful. In your career, and so just kind of take us from the beginning. Take us kind of when you were a kid, and some of your thought process, and some of the things that were challenges for you, and just.
Well, I'm the youngest of 10.
10. Wow.
Yeah, man. My mother.
You didn't get any food to eat, did you?
Man, look, you see the stomach now. I'm getting it now. Yeah, my mom, man, she had 8 kids before she married my dad, and had 2 with my dad. So her first husband died when her youngest from her first marriage was barely 2 years old. So they got in trouble really, really quick with my dad because he walked in and they didn't really want to have a second father.
Right.
You know, they was like, hey, what in the world is this?
Yeah, what's going on here?
Right. So then my brother Howard and I came along, and I was the youngest, and I was always taught that nobody's going to give you anything. You got to work for everything you want. You know, that's that Republican value mentality, and a lot of, black people don't really understand the difference between a true Republican and a true Democrat. It ain't got nothing to do with your political affiliation.
Right.
It has everything to do with, what you believe in as what's right and what's wrong. It's more of a principle than it is a political affiliation.
Right.
So, we were taught, work hard, do everything you can do to better yourself. Look out for the person next door, but make sure before you give it all away, you got something too.
Right.
But my older brothers and sisters, they drank, they smoked, they got high, they did drugs, went to jail, beat up cops, done all kinds of craziness. Wow. And, they all had the same opportunities I had. And I saw them work hard, I saw them do great things, and I saw them have some failures at the same time. And the lesson that I learned from my mom, especially from my dad as well, is that you don't have to be like everybody else. You can always just be yourself. You make your own path.
You do. You make
So
your
growing
own.
up in Willington, you know, he's a mixed kid, and you know, couldn't read or write. Second grade education, but he made sure that every day that my homework was done and that I had great grades.
Right.
And you know, seeing him work his ass off to take care of 8 kids that weren't his.
Man.
That's monumental.
Yeah, it is.
For me.
Yeah, it is.
And
Boy, he took on a lot.
He took on a lot, and they fought. I mean, they didn't want to have another father. But the day he died. He was working with T11. He was electrocuted on this job.
Oh, wow.
I was in college. I was 20 years old, and my brother Ronnie, who fought with him the most, he's like, you know, that's the only dad I've ever had. He says we have grown so close over the past 5 years. This is tearing me apart because he says I finally gave him a chance. And he has proved to me more than any man has ever proved to him. And that really hurt my brother. I mean, it really took him into a tailspin because now he's really without a dad.
Right,
you know?
right.
And, you know, and for my daughters, for me, you know, not being able to see my mom and my dad is the greatest disappointment of my life because, you know, you always want to share your kids with your mom and dad, you know.
Right, right.
So family, you know, family's great. Mentors are great, but, you know, friends like yourself, Gretchen, and the people that I see in the gym, you know, they're great too. And you will never believe it, but outside of the gym, I don't do very much other than stay at home and work.
Well, you got a full-time job at the gym, all the counseling you're doing.
I do a lot of that stuff, man. I'm losing my hair. My wife looks at me sometimes like,
I don't even know how you get a workout in.
5:30 in the morning, bro.
You gotta go early, baby.
5:30. Trying to live my life, you know, with that. Always be respectful. Always understand what the next man brings to the table. Never minimize or minimalize what another man brings to the table.
Right.
And it's not trivial when a man wants to be recognized by who he is, not by what he does.
Right.
So that was the lesson. It was always understand who you are as a person. So I learned how not to do things. A lot of times you have upbringings where people get taught how to do certain things.
Right.
I was taught how not to do certain things. Like there's a hole, 5 people fall into the hole. I'm not falling into that hole.
Right.
And that's what drugs and alcohol, you know, was for a lot of people. It was a big hole.
And you've never really drank or done any drugs or anything?
No, I've never done any drugs, never smoked. I think I've had maybe 3 or 4 drinks in my entire life, only because I was forced to do it because of cultural aspects, being out in Asia for a while. And, you know, having the chance to travel abroad, you know, if you don't honor the customs, you know, show shame and help the customs lose face because of your ignorance. So I did not want to be that ignorant American who was going over not doing things in the customary way.
Right, right.
Yeah. But I love life, man. Grew up in Goldsboro, you know, got scholarships.
So you played basketball and football in high school?
Basketball and track. Ran track as well, too.
And then that gave you the opportunity to
go to Howard University.
Yeah,
I went on a basketball scholarship, also was offered an academic scholarship as well at the same time.
Okay.
Had 4 great years. Matter of fact, the 4 years that I played basketball at Howard was the most wins in Howard history. And if you add up all the years prior as a Division I school and after, they still have not matched our 4 years that we had as a player.
So you had a great team.
I had a great team. I went into the Hall of Fame 3 times at the university. I'm still very active. Support the school as much as I can, encourage kids as much as possible to pick their own path, you know, and that's really what Howard was all about. It was a school that didn't have all the financial offerings of an Auburn, like my brother Howard. He went to Auburn.
Oh, he went to Auburn.
And played with Barkley and Chuck Pursues and all those guys.
So he was a basketball player also.
Yeah, and I was talented enough to be recruited by everybody from UCLA to Virginia, but you know, for me, it was really about having an opportunity, like I said, to be true to myself. Went to Howard, had 4 wonderful years. Wind up signing with the Charlotte Hornets after college as a free agent.
Okay.
Didn't last very long.
What year was that?
1988.
Okay.
It wasn't very good. I was talented enough to be one of the top players in the country. Had a chance to try out for our national team in 1987. One of the only black college ball players, actually the only black college ball player, invited to national team trials for the Pan American trials. So I'm roommates with Danny Ferry and Jeff Lebo from Carolina, but I'm hanging out with David Robinson, Keith Smart, Derek Coleman. You got guys who are perennial NBA all-stars that I'm hanging out with in 1987. And I'm thinking at that time, hey, I might be okay a little bit, you know?
This might work out.
It might. It just might. And I never really had any aspirations to play any professional sports at all. It was just something that just kind of happened. Fell in love with life, man. I just, I woke up every day playing the piano and praying. And I finished up every night playing the piano in school and praying. So, so Johnny Howard was an attorney out of Houston. But he was graduated from Howard Law, came back into Washington, D.C., started a law firm, and just became my mentor. And, the first thing that I learned from him is tell the truth. He says the truth is the easiest thing in the world to remember, and it causes you a little bit of stress for a very short period of time. He says, but if you lie to someone, you tend to allow for that person to dominate your space because you have to change who you are every time you're around them. So you have to keep perpetuating that lie. Yep. One of the other solid human beings in my life was also my college basketball coach, A.B. Williamson. And I got my jersey retired November 5th, 2005. And I couldn't believe it because I didn't think I deserved it. Really, just respectfully speaking, we had guys who scored more points, who had better careers. So I asked my coach, I said, well, why did you retire my jersey? He says, John, you came in here talking more shit than anybody I know.
Man, I have a hard time believing that.
And he said, you came and you backed up every word of it. And I told him the day I woke up campus, I said, you'll never have a losing season as long as I'm here.
There you go.
There were 5 freshmen that came in with me. I was the only one that was there at the end. Wow. And being with the Hornets was great. Dale Curry's on the team, Rex Chapman, Jeff Moore, Muggsy Bogues, and a whole bunch of other quality basketball players.
Right.
And I just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
I just had no idea.
That had to be tough. That had to be tough to come to that realization.
Yeah, it was amazing that you can be athletically the same, but the difference of 3 inches arm length and leg length
makes a difference.
Makes a huge difference. But more importantly, they played in programs that they had guys who would always come back who were already pros.
Right.
And they were trained and were groomed to become professional athletes. At Howard, we didn't have any professional athletes other than, a professional basketball player other than Larry Spriggs, who won a championship with the Los Angeles Lakers with Magic Johnson and Michael Cooper and those guys, but it wasn't like Larry was hanging out in Washington, D.C.
Right.
We played during the summertime with guys like Patrick Ewing, Dikembe Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning, Len Bias, who unfortunately passed away from an overdose. And I've had a chance to play with a lot of quality guys, but that daily grind of being beat up in the head by the best, we just didn't have. But it was a blessing because I had a chance to go overseas and play basketball, and I went to France. And that's when I realized what my calling was. And I did not want to go back afterwards. I was good enough and had plenty of offers to go back and play. But guy asked me one day, I was always smiling, joking, playing, kind of like what you see me do in the gym now.
Right.
So I'm on the basketball court doing the same thing. And one guy asked me one day, a reporter says, well, why do you always smile and play and joke with the guys from the other team and the fans and everything? I said, well, and I had no idea where this came from. This just kind of came out of me. I said, well, I don't know, man. This is just God's talent, man. I'm just shining his light, So what you see is not what you get. You see me. You don't see that spirit that moves me inside of me.
Sure.
And that only comes from humble beginnings and understand that God places you where he wants you to be. You don't go where you want to go.
Right.
So where you go in that part of life, it's a placement by God. And after he reveals a place to you, he reveals a purpose to you.
Right.
And so once he reveals the purpose to you, like, say, for example, Adam. He placed him in Eden. It was Eden before it was Adam. And his purpose was to go out and grow vegetation and to name all the animals in the kingdom.
Right.
So my purpose when I went over was to become an ambassador and to show people not all black people are ignorant, not all black people are thugs, not all of them are murderers. And that was something that was perpetuated by the media, and that's all they saw. So a lot of my teammates wouldn't even talk to me in the very beginning because they had no idea who I really was as a human being.
So part of your mission was to change that perception.
That's exactly what it was. And every year that mission kept growing. And so instead of doing it within my basketball team and within that unit or that structure, eventually I started to venture out into the communities and start doing things in the neighborhood and then within the city, and then even in Indonesia with my friend Wayman Strickland and I, we used to go out and just visit orphanages all over Indonesia and donate our time, money, and efforts to, help saving babies who were thrown away in trash cans.
Wow.
So
now, how long were you in France? And then you played in Asia also, right?
I was in France for a year, and then from France I went to Turkey. Into Belgium that year. Wind up leaving Belgium because, in Europe, all the money is not always guaranteed. So I left, went to Portugal, went back to Turkey for 2 more years. I went in from Turkey into Italy, into Israel, Sweden, back into Israel, and then into China. And I would go back and forth.
World.
I went to Australia with my brother. My brother was playing down in Australia as well too, and I've had a chance to see the entire planet.
That's awesome.
And
from a boy from Goldsboro, North Carolina, seen the world. Isn't that amazing?
And you'll be surprised. The world is actually so small.
It is. It's very small.
Everywhere I've been, I've seen people from Goldsboro. And there's not been a place on this planet that I've been that I've not run into a friend.
How about that?
And so when I tell you God places you in places, He also puts comfort around you as well at the same time. And they call it, that cloak of armor. And so I've had that. And, sometimes I look back over my life and I'm like, wow, I really did that.
No, something.
I really went there, and I can really say this in this language, and I really tried this food, and now I'm really happy because I feel like I'm in a place in life where I understand even more so now what my purpose is, and that's to make sure that I instill what I've learned inside of my children.
Right.
And that's big for me.
Right. Yeah. And you've got 2 girls, right?
I got 2 girls, 16, 19, Maya and Olivia. I'm married for 23 years to Mary, who I met while I was playing ball in China.
Okay.
And, they haven't seen all the world that I've seen, but what they've seen so far, I think they've seen enough. Because the world is not just France, Belgium, Italy, Spain, Turkey. It's right here where you are, and with all the things that we've seen over the past couple of years with COVID and this political climate that we have, and the intentional separation of people by the media.
It's terrible. It is. I mean, it's sad that they can't focus on why can't we, all be considered equal and go out and look for the same opportunities instead of trying to divide the country into pieces. It's just I don't understand that.
I don't either. And if you look at what you and I do on a daily basis when we walk into a gym or into a work environment, all the drama that they perpetuate and fabricate, we don't see. And they said, well, maybe you live in a different world. I said, well, I grew up in Goldsboro.
Right.
And my friends in Goldsboro came with all colors, and I don't ever remember experiencing any form of racism growing up. Matter of fact, I moved back to North Carolina because I was so comfortable here with all the people that I knew, from white, black, Mexican, Puerto Rican, and Puerto Rican. I didn't care.
Right.
And my dad didn't care. And my mother didn't care. We never knew strangers. And just trying to help my daughters understand it's okay to be a little bit liberal, but that doesn't mean give it all away.
Right.
And but they want to be conservative with a lot of things as well too. But they want to have their civil liberties, but they don't want you to be honest about what you want as well too. So it's impactful, the media is, in the way that children are allowed to have a certain amount of opinions about things that they have not had the experience to really understand what it's really all about.
Right.
So we were told to stay in our places when we were kids. Now kids are inundated with information, whereas they can't stay in their place.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think technology has harmed us considerably. And it's our fault as parents for putting the technology in their hand, but what do we do?
Yeah, because the message it gets to them is a very directed, controlled message that may not be the message you're wanting them to have.
Absolutely.
We check out Sam Jones BBQ, 502 West Lenore Street in the southern part of Raleigh. It was true hickory smoked barbecue. We saw the big pile of hickory wood out back. The interior of the restaurant was laid out very nicely with a very large bar. They also had seating outside, which was nice. John had the barbecue, and he said it lived up to his standards from Goldsboro. I had the barbecue chicken. It was excellent. I recommend this as a great barbecue restaurant in Raleigh. One of the things I wanted, we talked a little bit about it, is so that desire, that thing, that fire in the belly, whatever you want to call it, is that something you can teach somebody, or is that something that's a part of your DNA?
I believe you can have both. I think it's absolutely a part of some people. But I wasn't always the most aggressive, most assertive person. Sometimes when you're bigger and stronger, you kind of like don't want to run over people.
Right.
And so I didn't want to hurt anybody with my size. And when I was playing football in high school and in college, I would, I would want to take it easy sometimes because you felt bad for them.
Right.
But I always had something extra inside of me I knew I could give. And then you look at some people who just don't have it at all, and then all of a sudden a switch clicks and they kind of figure it out. So I think it's always inside of somebody. I just think whether or not they're willing to take the chance of bringing it out of them. Some people are afraid of that fire. Mm-hmm. And I think, I think there's a lot of factors that keep that fire smoldering up underneath a whole bunch of stuff that keeps it from really taking hold. And I think that's environmental. I think it's family, patriarchal, socioeconomic stuff. I just think sometimes people just have had so many bad things dealt their way, they just don't know if their fire is worth it anymore.
Interesting.
And that's the sad part about it. But as far as I'm concerned, man, it's innate. I got a bunch of brothers that will beat me up every day, so I just learned how to fight. And failure's just not an option. I don't know how to do it. I don't believe in this word called failure. Failure is when you quit and you don't care anymore.
You mentor a lot of kids coming up and wanting to be successful. What are you telling them? How do you get them to really understand what it takes?
I think every situation is unique.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I think the one thing holds true, and I think, just sitting down talking to you, it's the same thing. It's the fear of failure. Failure is only when you don't try, and when you're listening to the wrong voices and you're not interpreting what's said. I told them, be careful what you bring into your spirit, because it will dampen everything that you have inside of you. So we say never put yourself in a place where your good could be evil spoken of.
Right.
You go to a nightclub, you get into a fight. You weren't even intended to get into the fight. The guy just kind of got mad because you're talking to a girl, and next thing you know, you put yourself in a place where it's not conducive to you being successful. This club has problems. You have a chance to do great things. Put yourself and surround yourself by people who are going or who have gone where you're trying to go. So surround yourself by the right people. The environment is important. That's the main thing I try to instill in people. Surround yourself by good, positive, smart people.
Yeah.
Crackheads hang out in crack houses. Alcoholics hang out with drunks in liquor houses. Millionaires hang out in country clubs, and billionaires in the class by themselves. So put yourself in that place where you're always trying to get to that next level. So hang out with a next level type of guy or girl that can help you out.
Yeah, I think people minimize how important that support network really is.
Oh, absolutely.
And they look at a successful individual and they go, well, he or she must have just been really smart or had a great opportunities or whatever. And many times it's about who they surrounded themselves with, and having that support as they ran into obstacles to overcome them and move on.
You know what's interesting? You see what you just said? I have never seen a very successful business person that did not have a great work ethic also outside the business platform. Mm-hmm. Even though they may not have been working in a gym, like, we like to go work out and kill our stress that way, they may be an avid reader. They may have a way of gathering information better than anybody else that they can go out and use and process within that business structure. It's the same thing with sports. You got to work hard in the gym, but you also have to study the game at the same time.
Sure.
And when people are willing to go that extra distance to learn something new and to keep digging, I think that helps out a whole lot.
Interesting. Yeah.
No, that's the
So you also did some stuff in the entertainment business too. Are you going to venture out into that again? I know COVID kind of shut all of that down.
Shut all of that down.
Yeah.
Actually, the biggest project that I was really interested in was helping the Saudi government develop and grow basketball there, and that got shut down. And I had invested a lot of time into that, and COVID kind of smacked us around with that one. So we'll get that sorted back in 2022. But honestly, I want to get back into doing some concerts and some promotion stuff. I loved it.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to work with some people, from Kenny Rogers to Jamie Foxx.
Right.
And Usher, as well. I mean, I really want to get back into the promotional aspect of the game. A lot of talent here locally in Raleigh, and I'd like to see if I can identify who those guys are and really make a run at pushing a couple of little local entertainers and see how far we can go. That's really what I want to do.
There's been some very successful entertainers that have come out of this market, so I'm sure there's many more here.
I know there's this young fella named Toosii. He was a rapper, and I met him a few years ago here up in the gym, and I come back.
What's his name?
Toosii, Toosii.
Toosii. Okay.
Yeah, man, and he's talented.
He's a good rapper?
He's a great rapper, and the little kids love him, and he's a hooper, loves playing basketball, got on my nerves until he, finally decided he was going to go out and make it in this world. And you get guys like J. Cole, he comes into the gym and plays with us from time to time. And all artists think they're ball players, and all ball players think they're artists. So there's this cross sectioning.
Interesting. I didn't realize there was so much crossover there.
Oh, that's why we call it sports and entertainment. Because sports is entertainment, and entertainment is a sport. Because you got to run to win in entertainment.
Right.
And I think that's just a natural fit for me. Music's my first love. Do you still play the piano? I play a little bit. I'm not as good as I wish I were, but at the end of the day, sometimes it's like fishing. It's you fish not because you're trying to catch all the fish. You fish because you're trying to teach yourself a bit of patience.
That's right.
And so it's a game of patience. It's therapeutic. My daughters, they play pretty well, especially Maya. Maya's
both of them play piano?
Yeah, they both do. Olivia doesn't play as much as Maya does. Matter of fact, I don't think Olivia touched the keyboards in almost 2 years, but Maya is a wonderful singer-songwriter, guitarist, pianist. If she decides she wants to step out and give it a shot, I think she has the potential to go out and do wonderful things because she can.
Fantastic.
She can write, she can produce, she can sing, and she has the entertainment value that goes along with it. So I think I'm going to finish up doing something musically, and I'm going to let the spirit guide me in the direction I should go. And
you also do some. You actually help athletes as a promoter or an agent. You do some of that.
Sports agent. I am.
Sports agent, right?
I am the second dumbest guy in the planet. See, and I say that honestly. I mean, I thought I was a good
love
client.
your candor.
I thought I was a great client for my agents that I worked with. And I think I was pretty easy. I didn't demand
So
a lot
you're no
of things.
Jerry Maguire, huh?
No. Not even close, man. I wasn't begging for this. I just wanted to make a little bit of money off of stuff that I was already doing for people for free.
Right.
And I had, with my former agent, I turned him on to a couple of players. And not once had he ever offered me a cup of coffee. Because I was on TV at the time and I was covering the Atlantic 10 conference. And every time I saw my former agent, he was like, yeah, man, thank you for hooking me up with this guy. Oh, he's making $500,000 overseas right now. Well, $500,000 is a $50,000 commission.
Right. Well,
I'm like,
you weren't saying anything.
well,
Huh?
Jay, can I get a sandwich or something?
You give me a coffee?
I mean, I'm sitting here
Starbucks
at the table.
card?
Yeah, I'm evaluating all this talent, telling all these wonderful things about these guys, blowing them up, and you're reaping the benefits of my work, and it's just my word of mouth, and I'm getting nothing.
Yeah.
So I've found a niche, whereas I've helped some really talented players help me make money. That's the way I look at it. They're helping me feed my family. Guys like Chris Copeland, who played with the New York Knicks, he spent a lot of time overseas. Lance Thomas, who went to Duke. Guys like Andre Dawkins, Chris Clemens now, Antonius Cleveland, Rodney Purvis, Tony Bradley. These guys have done it the hard way. These are guys who were under the radar guys that nobody really thought would be there. But just like you and your business and what you do, you see where the potential and the growth really is, and you blow that up. And you help them understand how to put the other pieces around them to get to that next level.
Right.
And these guys have had some pretty damn good careers and made some pretty decent money. And I'm thankful for all of them, because even if they play 1 year in the NBA and I only make 26 grand off of them, if they go overseas the next 10 years and they make 150, 200,000, I'm making $15,000 to $20,000 off of them. And it happens for 8, 9, 10 years. So $20,000 off of one client for me was all the money my mom probably made that 1 year in 1984.
Oh, yeah. I remember my dad worked, he was a forester for the state, and his annual income was $12,000 a year. And he had a family and 2 kids, and, you know, I still to this day don't know how he figured out how to make it all work. But, you know, hey, you make it work. You know, you have what you have.
And that's my problem with the players, is that these are your means, live within them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the hardest part to get them to understand is, and that's why I shake my head and say I got to be the second dumbest player on the planet, because it's hard to tell a 22-year-old millionaire that you're not really a millionaire.
Right.
Your contract states you're a millionaire, but by the time Uncle Sam comes in,
There's going to be a lot of whittling down on that million. And a million go away really quickly. It's not as much money as someone might think.
No, and then you got your mom, your dad, you want to buy somebody a house and a car, and all of a sudden, you got house payments for 2 or 3 people.
Right.
You got car payments for 2 or 3 people. You got insurance for 2 or 3 people. And at the end of the year, you look at your bank account and you got less than $70,000 in your bank. Well, to most people, having $70,000 in your bank's a lot of money.
Yeah.
To you now, it's nothing. So now you're going to your agent. I need to get a line of credit. So I need to go out and do this, and I know I'm going to get another contract. I'm like, okay, well, you don't really know that.
Yeah, true.
And so let's be smart about it. So my struggle with the industry is that some agents they get the bad name because they think that they're the ones that are managing the players' money the wrong way. Well, we don't manage player money. Those are financial advisors. Mm-hmm. And these financial advisors want these guys to do what they want to do without having any fiduciary responsibility. And that way, I got this person as a client, so I can go get the next client.
Right.
They don't really care how they spend their money.
Right.
But we get the bad.
So they're not giving them any guidance on how to
Not
manage
really.
the money.
No.
That's why so many get in trouble.
Absolutely. Now, there are some agents that will come back and say, let's do this business deal or that deal, and I stay away from that. I don't want to go anywhere near God's money. I stay completely and totally away from it. But I love the game, and, you know, it gives me the opportunity to stay relevant and stay around the game. And I think,
awesome.
you know, with some of the clients that I've had, I still have wonderful relationships with, even though they're retired and moved on from the game. And, you know, they still help me out a lot, and I try to help them out as much as I can. But sometimes, you know, the way that the game has changed, you know, I think the model of the agency work the way that it needs to be changed. I think we need to stop allowing for players to take any money from an agent until he signs and becomes a bona fide NBA player.
Right.
And there should be some checks and balances on these parents in the way that they go out and negotiate for their kids.
Wow. So who would you say was the most impressive athlete that you ever came across in your career? And I'm not saying from just a pure athletic standpoint, but I'm saying from a character, just an all-around person, athlete, the whole picture.
Oh wow.
And I'm sure you've worked with a lot of different really amazing folks during your career.
There is a guy named Daryl Braden. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. I met Daryl playing basketball in Turkey.
Uh-huh.
I was 23, 24 years old at the time. And Daryl used to always call me young fella.
Young fella.
Yeah, he's a couple of years older.
Uh-huh.
He's in the ministry now in Memphis, but he went to the University of Alabama, Birmingham. And when I tell you this man took me up underneath his wing, he was what we call an OG nowadays. He'd go out and we'd meet in Turkey and have lunch together. We just started talking about life and how to handle pressure situations and, you know, not let my emotions get the best of me when things aren't going well with the club. Because a lot of times in Europe, what most people don't realize is that even though they tell you your contract is guaranteed, they're not supported by billionaires like the teams are here.
Right.
They get money from municipalities, the government, local businesses, and the team's budget might be $1 million, $1.5 million a year, and they're paying you when the sponsors pay them.
Right.
And so a lot of times your money's not on time, so you know, you want to threaten to leave a country because you haven't been paid, or they'll threaten not to pay you because they don't really have the money, and you're now playing with a chip on your shoulder because you don't know if you're going to get your money or not, you know?
Jeez.
So,
I had no idea.
Oh, yeah, it's like that. And Daryl would be that guy like, yo, man, just be patient, be calm. You know why you're here.
Right.
Understand why you're here. I know you believe in God. God gonna take care of you. And Daryl was that guy that everybody just loved because he was one of those people who he didn't let too much get up underneath his fingernails and make him look bad, you know. And
that's a great quality.
It is, and I just love him for it. We're still pretty cool to this day.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
And I thank you for your time.
Hey, buddy, thanks so much. It was been a pleasure.
Hey, man, I love the hell out of you. You know that,
I love
right?
you too. And you know, I think you've got so much wisdom, and I know that this is going to help a lot of people, and you know, I think that'll go back to your purpose.
That's all I'm gonna say. I appreciate you. I love you, man.
Yes, sir.
Stay out of trouble.
Same here.
Hey, run over that car whenever you get a chance, okay? So I can take this.
Let me know when you want to grab the truck.
Let's do it.
All right, buddy.
Appreciate you.
See you. I want to thank John Spencer for taking the time to go out to lunch with me and share his exceptional wisdom. He's achieved a lot in the face of many obstacles. If you like this content, please subscribe to Flying, Fishing, and Food. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for watching.